Okay, well, it is with deep sadness and deep regret that I announced to you guys that the presidential debates happened last week, and we have to talk about it. So buckle up. It will be a fun time, I think. But before we get into any of that, I just wanted to put it out there. I doubt that anyone noticed, but we did not have a podcast episode last week. That is due to the fact that I went to Disneyland with my bestie, and I was very proud of myself. I had a ton of content pre-recorded, pre-scheduled, ready to upload. It all went out. And then when I came home, all I had to do was finish scripting an episode and film it and post it the following Monday. And but I caught the California cooties, and I have been deathly ill. Okay, that's a little bit dramatic, but I don't handle being sick well, and it took me out. Frankly, I was totally useless for about 5 days. So for the 3 people who follow this podcast closely, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But because of that, and because of the debate, the episodes that I had planned are now a week or 2 behind. So we're gonna be a little bit late with some of the stories, but I still want to yap about them. So expect all of that to be coming down the pipeline in the coming weeks. But with all of that, this is your reminder to make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up. If you are listening on Spotify, leave a rating and a review over that. I would really appreciate it. All of my other social medias are linked down below, as always. And with all of that, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. Good golly, Aunt Dolly, the debate. My goodness, this was a sight to behold. This was a spectacle. It was a debacle. It was the debate debacle. Oof, we thought that the Trump-Biden debate was bad. This was worse. This was so much more difficult to watch than the Trump-Biden debate. And my theory on that is because Biden was a dead person. They trotted out a dead person. And because of that, he wasn't really able to get under Trump's skin. Trump, likewise, was not as able to really get under his skin. And so it was very kind of milquetoast. This was not that. Kamala Harris is not a dead person. And they definitely went at it. And it was just a lot of back and forth and arguing. And it was just, if you watched it, you know, it was not fun. And there's so much to cover between biased moderators, Kamala Harris being a smug little bitch, Donald Trump losing his cool and looking like a goof ass. I don't even know where to start. I just do not. How about we just start with an overall statement of how can this possibly be the reality that we are living in? How did we find ourselves in this situation? I obviously have my bias. I'm voting for Trump, but that doesn't mean I'm blind to how much of a shit show this was. I just don't know how it came down to these two. I do. I see the pipeline. I know how we got here. It just is not ideal, is it? I do not think that either one of them directly answered any question that was posed to them. They took the question, skirted it, and took it in whatever direction that they wanted to take it in. And that was one of the things that for me personally made this so difficult to watch, because I'm just like sitting there wanting to wring their necks. Like, answer the question. Answer the question. But that's politics for you. So I guess we'll break this episode up into kind of the big moments, the big takeaway moments from the debate. And then I'll wrap it up with my kind of thoughts. And you know what's crazy is I went to X this morning, the day after the debate, to look for big moments, things that are trending from the debate. And there is nothing trending from the debate. It was literally last night, and we've already moved on, because that's just how short our attention span is as Americans. And that is disturbing. But enough about it. Let's just dive right in. Head first is the only way to get through this, I suppose. One of the bigger moments was Trump talking about Springfield, Ohio, because there are a lot of stories going on about certain Haitian migrants in the area doing certain things. We'll just play the clip here.
Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Now, the moderators, if we can call them that, fact-checked him on this, stating that they spoke to the city manager, and he said that there wasn't any evidence to support any of the things that are being claimed. And this was supposed to be a big, huge gotcha moment. And in my opinion, Trump fumbled the ball here because he got flustered, he got upset, and it could have been a great opportunity he could have simply just said, I do not care what the city manager says. I am listening to the American people. I am listening to them testifying in front of their city councils. I am listening to the things that they are posting online. I am listening to the American people. I do not care what your bureaucrat says. Simple. That would have been a great moment for him. And it was just the first of many that he missed. Now, I am not saying that this is something that is happening frequently, but it is something that's happening. I mean, there's this photo that's been circulating a ton about this migrant carrying a duck or a goose, I don't know, by its neck that he captured from the lake. And it's just a very eerie, weird looking photograph. And then there was this that was posted on a group page on Facebook, I believe. It says, quote, warning to all about our beloved pets and those around us. My neighbor informed me that her daughter's friend had lost her cat. She checked pages, kennels, asked around, etc. And one day she came home from work. As soon as she stepped out of her car, she looked towards a neighbor's house where Haitians live and saw her cat hanging from a branch like you do a deer for butchering, and they were carving it up to eat. I've been told that they are doing this to dogs. They have been doing it at Snyder Park with ducks and geese. As I was told that last bit by rangers and police, please keep a close eye on these animals. It's happening once or twice. That's too many times. And the problem is that they're bringing in these migrants and they're not even trying to assimilate them. The larger problem here isn't necessarily even the rumors about the pets and the animals. It's the fact that they brought in, 20 or 50,000 Haitian migrants to this small Ohio town. That's a problem. It's a problem. They're not even trying to assimilate them. They're not even trying to get them to understand American culture. They're just dropping them there and they're just like, well, off you go. Because it's not even just about the potential animals. There's also been testimonies about things like they don't know how to drive. They are squatting on people's yards. I mean, just take a listen to these two testimonies that have been going around recently. They're a couple minutes long, but well worth it.
I think it's kind of odd that a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun, because I see what's going on in these streets, and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits, and I'm getting out here every day, and I'm broadcasting this, and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into... They flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, y'all can be comfortable with this. I don't know, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants, because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get a task force for the Highway State Patrol, and they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for going left to center and a couple miles over, y'all can take them same people, the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset, and y'all can park them right over there, and y'all can teach people how to drive, since the Highway State Patrol knows so much about traffic laws and know what to do in traffic. They need to, y'all pay them, they can go over there and teach these Haitians how to drive, because it's getting I'm getting thousands of views on these, and it's going to get bigger, and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of $1,000s. Y'all need to put on a t-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets, and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. We got to do something, bro. It's kids out here getting hurt. Only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them. And who is getting paid? How much money is y'all really getting paid, to bring them over here? I know it's deeper than them. I know that's where they come from, and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really, like, step up. Like, it's lame, bro. Like, for real.
Thank you for your comment.
I live at 426 Northwestern Avenue. Miss Skinner, who I'm not trying to put on the spot, is my neighbor.
Just talk to me, ma'am. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
And I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status, and you're protecting them, and I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
But instead of addressing any of that, the moderators just fact-checked him, if you could even call it that, because they were wrong. And all the while, Harris is sitting there cackling like this is some kind of joke. Like, oh my God, he just said the craziest things. She does not give a fuck about the American people. If there's a takeaway from this debate, it is that, for me personally. But moving on a lighter note, this was pretty funny. At one point, Trump was talking about her support for defund the police, and she's kind of trying to interject. Of course, the microphones are muted, so you can't really hear her. And he pulls a her.
On defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota.
Now, this is obviously a callback to her debate with Mike Pence when Pence was not even interrupting her, but she's just like, excuse me, I am talking now. Excuse me.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Trying to like do her big one, trying to be like, I am an assertive woman or some shit. And it just comes off looking so corny and stupid. And this was definitely a laugh track moment. But it was not any, like, it's not gonna stick. It's not a huge thing that's gonna happen. Like all of the big moments that he needed to take, he didn't. So another thing that they tried to fact check him on was post-birth abortions. And where he falls into a trap here is he uses the wrong language. They're not post-birth abortions. The language he needs to use is he's discussing babies that are born alive. He is referring to babies who were, they attempted to abort, but survived the abortion, and now they are alive. And this has been a huge point of debate in many states and in Congress of born alive bills, which are basically stating that if a baby survives an abortion and is born alive, you have to do everything in your care to save that baby, and it doesn't always happen. He referred to the former governor of Georgia, who did say that the doctors just set it aside, make it comfortable, and decide what to do with it later.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
And yes, of course, this is something that is incredibly rare. This does not happen often whatsoever, but I just find it to be ironic because all of the pro-choicers focus a lot on the exceptions, and things like rape and incest account for 1 to 0.5% of all abortions that occur. And yet that is one of the biggest things that they talk about. So when it's something about the exceptions to get an abortion, then it's the end all be all. You have to fight for that 1%. But when it's born alive babies, it's just, who cares? It doesn't even happen that often. Be consistent. But continuing to move right along, let's talk about the moderators, because they just did their big one, didn't they? Moderators were David Muir and Lindsay Davis, and they, oh my God. So throughout the entire debate, there were 4 active fact checks. I mean, points where the moderators jumped in and were like, that's not true. All 4 of them were against Trump. They did not fact check Harris a single time. They didn't even try. They didn't even try to fact check Kamala Harris a single time. And here's my thing. Fact check or don't, I don't really care either way. There are some people who think it's the job of the moderator to fact check. I don't think I believe that so much, but I'm pretty indifferent. Like, if they fact check, they fact check. If they don't, they don't. Just apply it evenly. If you're going to fact check both. If you're not, then don't fact check either. And I think that's fair. And that was not the case last night. And honestly, we're going to get more into this, but I think this is going to be the bigger takeaway. I don't think that the takeaway is going to be anything Harris said or anything Trump said. I think the biggest takeaway is going to be the fact that this was one of the most biased debates in history. Just to give you an idea, Kamala Harris brought up Project 2025 like maybe 4 or 5 times, and Trump is sitting there like, I have nothing to do with this. I have said this numerous times. I have nothing to do with Project 2025. And the moderators are just like, hee hee, ha ha, I love you, Kamala Harris. You do no wrong. You do nothing wrong, you beautiful, wonderful black woman, female vice president. We love you. And it's just insane because she's lying her little ass off, and they just do not seem to care whatsoever. She also brought up the fine people on both sides lie in regards to Charlottesville, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. This was an incident where there were Nazis marching in the streets in Charlottesville. It was a really horrible thing. And Trump put out a statement about it, fully condemning the Nazis and all of the horrible people that were involved, but also recognizing the fact that that was not everybody that was at this protest. But what he said was that there were fine people protesting on both sides, excluding the Nazis, obviously.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay?
And that never gets talked about. They only take that one tiny little clip completely out of context, and she brought that up once again, and Trump is sitting there trying to defend himself, and the moderators are just in goddamn Kamala Lala land. She also claimed that he would sign a national abortion ban. Again, I just can't even express to you guys how false this is. He has repeatedly said that he would veto a national abortion ban, but even that aside, his stance on this has not changed, actually. His stance has been to overturn Roe v. Wade, which he did, which gives it back to the states, which takes it out of the hands of the federal government. So he doesn't want the federal government to have any say. And guess what? If the president were to sign any kind of legislation about abortion, what would that be? That would be the federal government getting its hands in abortion, which is exact opposite of what his stance is. So not only has he said that he would veto an abortion ban, it just inherently goes against his abortion stance. But again, what did the moderators do? They just nothing. They did nothing because it was rigged from the start. She's just allowed to say anything she wants. And are we surprised? Are we really surprised about this? I think I am a little bit, to be honest with you, because the Biden debate, I can't remember who the other person, Jake Tapper and Dana Bush, they did a pretty decent job. They were fair. They fact-checked both of them. They called out both of them. They asked hard questions to both of them. It was a very fair debate, and that surprised me. I was not expecting that, but I think that they felt a lot of pressure to give a fair debate. I think there's a lot of factors, actually, that go into that. I think that there was pressure to get Biden out because the polls were already so bad. So I think that they had less stake in protecting him. Whereas now with Kamala Harris, she is their last hope. And so it's just balls to the wall and get this woman across the finish line, no matter how blatant our bias is. And Lord, was it blatant. So she also claimed that apparently she's a gun owner now, and she's against taking back guns. Like, she doesn't want that, which is so just ironic because she has been on record, not once, not twice, numerous times, talking about mandatory buybacks, which means you get money in return for your weapon. And the word mandatory there is pretty important, isn't it? It says you don't really have a choice. You have to do this.
I support buybacks, and I think that, look, we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America, and we have 5 million assault weapons on the streets of America. And assault weapons have been designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. They are weapons of war, and there is no place for them on a civil society, on the streets of a civil society. And it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment, listen, we're going to have to do it the right way. There's no question about that. But we don't have any, we have to get these guns off the street. But I also, I have faith in the American people to know that, that we want to comply with our laws, and that I know that to be true.
About the millions of, specifically, assault weapons that are already in circulation. What do you do about those?
Well, there are approximately 5 million, to your point, Craig. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. I do believe that we need to do buybacks. A buyback program is a good idea. Now, we need to do it the right way. And part of that has to be, to buy back and give people their value, the financial value.
But again, we flip-flopped. She flip-flopped on every issue. Trump did have another good moment right at the top of the debate where he's talking about the fact that she has no policies. She only uploaded policies to her website like the day before the debate, and a lot of them are in line with what Trump has been saying all along. And he had this one-liner of, I want to send her a MAGA hat. I mean, she's basically MAGA now with all of these policy prescriptions that she's discussing and proposing. The only difference is she doesn't mean it. And I think that the fact that she has gone so moderate, and I don't believe that this is the way that she would actually govern, and I think that's the problem for a lot of Americans, is no one believes her, is the fact that she has gone so moderate, the fact that she has leaned into border security all of a sudden, and she doesn't support defunding the police all of a sudden, and she supports fracking all of a sudden, and all of these things tells you that those are the popular positions. Those are the positions that are important to Americans, and we just have to hope, I guess, that Americans have enough brain activity left to recognize the fact that Kamala Harris is lying through her goddamn teeth, okay? She does not stand for any of these things. She said it herself in her single interview that she has done. I mean, don't even get me started on the fact that her and Walz have done one single interview. This woman is running for president, hasn't done an interview. That's insane. But in this one interview, which, by the way, was 40 minutes long, and they had to cut it down to 18 minutes because even in a sit-down planned interview, she cannot pull it together. She said her values have not changed. When she was asked why she has flip-flopped on all of these issues, her answer was, my values have not changed.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
That's all I needed to know. Her values are radical leftist. Her values are progressive. And that's all you really need to know. She can say whatever she wants, but at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of the same of what we've had for the last 4 years if we elect her. But I totally got distracted. Let's get back to the debate. So with the moderators, the thing is if they weren't fact-checking Trump, they were like pushing him or following up on stuff, and they didn't do that to Kamala Harris at all. They were constantly interrupting him, saying, Mr. President, we have to move on to the next thing. We have to move on to the next thing. Kamala Harris got her whole thing out. They never interrupted her. I think they interrupted her once, and it was like this really big moment. Trump's talking, she's talking, the moderators are talking, and the only reason they told her no is because they had just told Trump no, and they kind of had to. Other than that, they just let her talk and talk and talk and talk. And they were constantly interrupting him. But again, are we surprised? It ties into not only the questions that were asked themselves, but the way in which they were asked. So I shit you guys not, one question that they asked was, they proposed the topic of race and politics. Raise your hand right now if you give a flying f- about race and politics in the year 2024. If your hand is up, I'm cutting it off. I'm pissed. What are we talking about here? And with that, what they then continued on to do is they asked Trump about the time that he said that he doesn't know if Kamala Harris is really black, right? Because she's a chameleon. She is whatever she needs to be to whatever group she needs to be. I mean, we saw this very recently with the immediate comparison. I can't remember where these rallies were. I think one was in Pennsylvania, but she did 2 rallies back to back. And for one group, she spoke very hood, very gangster, like a black pastor. And then in the other one, she spoke very correctly and she enunciated all of her words. If I can find the clip, I'll play it here.
Person in our nation has benefited from that work. You know, everywhere I go, I tell people, you may not be a union member, but you better thank unions for that 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time. So, friends, 64 days until the most election of our lives. Let's just get through the next 64 days. How about that? And you all helped us win in 2020. And in 2024, we will win again. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will. He's going to jail. Well, the courts will handle that, and we will handle November. How about that? Here's the thing. The courts are going to handle that. We're going to beat them in November. We're going to beat them in November.
But the whole point, and that demonstrates it, is that she just does whatever she wears whatever mask she needs to wear to get whatever done she needs to get done. And so they asked him about this, and his answer was, I don't care what color she is. I'm just saying that she does what she needs to do, whatever I just said. And then they turned to Kamala Harris, and they're like, well, how do you feel about what Donald Trump said? And this was like a reoccurring pattern. They would ask Trump of like, how do you contend with this horrible thing that you did? And then they'd go, Kamala Harris, well, how do you feel about this horrible thing that he did? Like, it, oh my God. And to just bring up race and politics at all, I want to buy a house. I want to afford groceries. I want to have a family. This is so, like, this doesn't even make top 1,000 issues that I care about. This is probably number one that I don't care about. I can't even express to you guys how much I don't give a fuck about race and politics. And of course, they also questioned him about January 6th. And it's just so amusing, right? Because you know the line. It was a threat to our democracy and all of this and all of that. It was such a threat to our democracy, actually, that Kamala Harris herself said that it was the biggest threat to our democracy since the Civil War.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
And she would do this thing, right, where Trump would say something and she'd go, talk about extreme. Oh my God.
The manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
And that particular clip actually also demonstrates what I was talking about earlier with the moderators jumping in and trying to fact check Trump on Springfield, Ohio. But Kamala Harris, you want to talk about extreme? Stating that January 6th was the biggest threat to our democracy since the literal Civil War? Baby girl. Be for real. And you know what? I found it to be so interesting, right? That they talked about January 6th. It's this huge historical event. It could have potentially altered our country forever. Not once did they mention the attempted assassination on Trump, because that certainly would have altered our country forever. I could imagine a question like, so Kamala Harris, how do you think that the rhetoric that you share about Donald Trump might have contributed to this event in Butler, Pennsylvania? You know, something like that maybe. But no, because that would be too tough. Oh no. That would open eyes. That would open people's eyes. They might start thinking about things. We can't have that. We need a stupid population, not one that pays attention, because people who pay attention are very difficult to manipulate. And that's what this was. This was pure manipulation. It was insane. Honestly, though, to get to the heart of it, I really don't think that this is going to be something that sways the election. I think the biggest story, like I said, coming out of this is going to be how biased these moderators were. I don't necessarily know that Kamala Harris or Trump had any, they didn't move the ball in either way. Neither one of them had a huge takedown moment. And when I think of a big takedown moment, I think about the debate with Biden. When Trump said, I don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he did either. That stuck. That hurt him almost as much as, yeah, he did beat Medicare. He beat it to death. I mean, these were moments that stuck in people's minds. These are moments, I think even without them, Biden would have been out. It was just that bad. But these were big moments. I think about when Tulsi Gabbard debated Kamala Harris in 2019. She took her down so hard that she couldn't even make it to the first round of voting in Ohio. You know, so debates can be consequential, most definitely. I just don't think that this one was. Because the thing is this election is coming down to 5 or 10% of the population who haven't made a decision yet. They are in the middle. They are moderate. And I don't think that those people watched the debate. This might offend some, but if you have not made up your mind on who you're voting for in this election, you are a low information voter. If you are paying any amount of attention to the things that are going on in our country, you know who you're voting for. Your mind is made up because it's obvious. And I don't think that those are the type of people who are sitting down and watching presidential debates, especially not this one. It was torturous. And of course, we have legacy media running with the narrative that Harris won the debate. But if you go on X or online, people are saying that Trump won the debate. And this very much reminds me of if you go to Rotten Tomatoes and you have the critic score versus the audience score. Oftentimes the audience score is more trustworthy because the critics are often captured by an agenda or by trying to push something. And that feels very reminiscent of what I'm seeing here. I am more inclined to believe what people are saying online in this particular instance. Obviously, I don't think that the onlines are representative of the real world in any way whatsoever. But what I do think is people who are politically active are more likely to voice those things online. And so I do think that in certain cases, what you're seeing trending is a good indicator of what people who actually watched the debate are thinking. No, I do not believe CNN when they say that Kamala Harris completely destroyed it. I just simply don't. Because the thing is she came off very smug and very insincere. I have a hard time believing that any real serious person watched that debate and came away from it feeling like, oh, this person really cares about me. And you know what? The same could go for Trump. But what I will say for Trump, as much as it was frustrating to see him get so upset and fired up because he needed to stay on point, there is an element of that of like, oh, he's fired up because they're lying. And I think that there is some people who that resonates with. But again, just like Kamala Harris, I don't think that those are swing votes. I think that the people who resonated with that are people who are steadfastly in the Trump camp, which is why I don't think that this debate is going to swing the election in one way or the other. And that's the other thing is I don't think anyone believes Kamala Harris because she was saying, she's saying that Trump's economy was so bad. He had the worst foreign affairs, all of this stuff. Nobody believes that. She got up on that stage and told Americans to not believe their lying eyes, to not believe the fact that life was simpler, life was easier, you had more money, you could afford things. The world was a safer place 4 years ago when Trump was in office than it is today. And I just don't think that that's going to land. I don't think that people are that stupid. There are some. Believe me, there are some, but hopefully not the majority. And for Trump's part, I mean, his Achilles heel is his ego, and Kamala Harris knew that going in, and she used it, and she used it well, and he fell for it. I mean, at one point, I said at the beginning of the episode, like, there were several parts where he could have drilled her so much harder and had such a much larger moment, and he missed it. And one of the biggest was on immigration, obviously one of his strongest issues. And when she's getting questioned about it, she somehow pivots it to be about his rallies. And she starts saying things like, well, people leave his rallies in the middle of the rally because he just drones on and on and on and nobody cares. And he took the bait and he's like, nobody leaves my rallies. Nobody even goes to your rallies. And just Trump And it's frustrating. It is very frustrating because he definitely took the bait and he did not perform as strongly as he could have. For the final time, I don't think that it's going to be that consequential. Of course, we'll check back in next week and see what people are thinking and how this is shaken out. But I just don't know that there was any new information introduced, I think, is the bottom line. You saw Trump be Trump. You saw Kamala Harris be Kamala Harris. You didn't really see any new sides of them. And I don't think that there was anything that was necessarily influential about this whatsoever. So there was so much more that happened. It was an hour and a half, I believe, long. It was definitely lengthy. And there was a lot more that we could have covered, but these were the moments that stuck out in my mind. And leave any comments down below of things that stuck out to you guys. Have any conversations? I would love to hear it. And of course, remember to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and I will talk to you guys all next Monday. Bye.